Thousands upon thousands of illegal immigrants are now marching through Mexico toward our southern border to demand entry into this country. So just how massive is this organization that has been organized? Who's organizing it? Who's providing the funding? And are there ulterior political motives at play here? Well, today, the Vice President, Mike Pence, answered some of those important questions. Let's take a look.
At the President's direction, I spoke to President Hernandez of Honduras. He told me that the caravan that's now making its way through Mexico, headed for the southern border, was organized by leftist organizations and financed by Venezuela.
One of the shadowy left-wing organizations now involved, their name is Pueblo Sin Fronteras, explains that its dream is to, quote, watch this, turn down border walls imposed by greed. Now, think about what that means. This group is calling you, we, the American people, greedy for wanting a border wall or believing in our constitutional republic, our sovereignty, the rule of law in this country, for wanting to control immigration, for wanting to know exactly who wants to come into our country and what reason they want to be here. Fair questions. And, of course, the caravan poses massive security risks, frankly, for both the people marching and for the American people. Now, reports indicate that previously deported illegal immigrants, they are using this caravan to sneak back into the U.S. after being deported. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, she recently warned that cartels are trying to infiltrate this caravan. And today, both the president and the vice president issued this serious warning. Let's take a look.
The United States of America intervenes and prevents 10 terrorists or suspected terrorists from coming into our country every day. So it is inconceivable that there would not be individuals from the Middle East as a part of this growing caravan.
I spoke with Border Patrol this morning, and I spoke to them last evening, and I spoke to them the day before. I speak to them all the time. And they say, and you know this as well as anybody, over the course of the year, over the course of a number of years, they've intercepted many people from the Middle East. They've intercepted ISIS. They've intercepted all sorts of people. They've intercepted good ones and bad ones. They've intercepted wonderful people for the Middle East, and they've intercepted bad ones.
And breaking tonight, new reports that yet another caravan is now forming in El Salvador with plans to make its way to our southern border. Now, the media, the left in this country, they're either ignoring this story or making ridiculous claims that Republicans want to violently repel this group or even attack them with the military. That is an absolute lie. It's absurd. And if there is, God forbid, any confrontation at our southern border, it will not be because the United States is causing it. And by the way, let me say for the record, I am sure that the vast majority of people in this caravan, we know what they want, a better life that they're not getting in their own country. But we cannot guarantee, nobody can guarantee, if you're listening to any commentary, nobody can vouch for every single person that is marching in that caravan, whether or not they have our best intentions at heart. Now, if we did have a serious, expansive border wall today, which could be built expeditiously, guess what? This would not be an issue. It won't be an issue in the future if we build the wall. But Democrats, they think it's politically expedient to have open borders. They're the supporters of sanctuary cities, even sanctuary states like California. And by the way, an acceptance of anyone and everyone who comes here illegally. They want amnesty. They're the party of amnesty. They just don't want to tell you because John Podesta's group is saying, just don't say it. Don't tell people who you really are. All while people, the ones that do the right thing, enter the country legally, respect our Constitution, respect our sovereignty, respect our borders, respect our rule of law, guess what? They're waiting in line patiently. And sadly, there's not one Democrat in this country tonight, not one, speaking out supporting law, order, American sovereignty, borders, our Constitution. Now, this is not a crazy idea because guess what? Well, we have the videotape. And a few years ago, even then, Senator Obama, many top Democrats today, they were singing a very different tune. As a matter of fact, they all sound like Donald Trump today. But of course, that was then. They wanted your votes then. And this is, of course, now. Take a look.
We all agree on the need to better secure the border and to punish employers who choose to hire illegal immigrants. We are a generous and welcoming people here in the United States, but those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully.
Wow, sounds like Donald Trump. Now, Democrats are playing politics with immigration. No surprise. The Trump agenda constantly promoting policies that do put Americans first.
That we all agree with. We have to change the laws. We have to make them much different. They're very soft, and it's a different time. It's really a different time. Maybe there was a time where that could have been appropriate. But we have to have immigration laws now that are suitable for this time and that work. And the ones that we have now are old and they don't work. They don't work and they don't come close to working. And we need protection. We have to have a wall.
All right, that was the president earlier today blasting our weak immigration laws that have allowed this migrant caravan to become a major crisis. Sarah Carter went down to Guatemala this week as an independent investigative reporter, joined the caravan for a few days to find answers as to who these people are, how they got organized, and who sent them towards this country. She obtained exclusive footage, as you see on your screen. And she joins us live tonight from Guatemala, and also with us, former Secret Service agent, NRA TV contributor Dan Bongino. Sarah, let's start with you. You apparently ran into people that were part of MS-13, which was reported earlier today. People want to hear this.
Yeah, absolutely. We ran into people that were part of MS-13. It appeared, Sean, that there were other people as well, other gang members from various different groups. There was an enormous amount of men. We were there to greet, basically, the second wave of people crossing from Honduras into Guatemala. I was right on the Honduran border with officials there, spent some time as well with Guatemalan officials, the head of Guatemalan intelligence, Mario Duarte. I also spent time today with the president of Guatemala, President Jimmy Morales. So this has been a huge issue for the people of Guatemala, for the government of Guatemala. I can tell you what I saw were very few women and children and an enormous amount of men. There were about 1,500 in this second wave. They believe there are about 7,000 in total that crossed through here. Remember, a lot of people began joining the very first wave when they got into Mexico. So there were a lot of coyotes, a lot of drug cartel members that were pushing their own people into the crowds to join these crowds that were moving from Honduras all the way through to Mexico to reach the U.S. border. But the majority of them were men. The women and children were in the front, and it was a very dangerous situation for them because there was a move, a push. Some of them had been trampled. They had them way up to the front of the line. But I could tell you I saw over 1,000 men, many of them highly organized, wearing the same backpacks. A few of them had told me that it was an organized movement, that they had people contact them in their villages, and that's why they were part of this movement going in. They had heard it on the news as well. So this is very important for people to understand. This was not a spontaneous movement. This was a very organized event.
And the vice president, let me get to Dan Bongino, then we'll get back to you, Sarah. The vice president is saying today that the Honduran president is saying organized by radicals within that country, but also financed by Venezuela.
Yeah, Sean, the evidence is everywhere. We've seen a Honduran left-wing congressman, I believe the name is Fuentes, who has already come out and made some statements that the left wing in South America is behind this. Again, this is only ignored by the media, but the problem here is the media and their liberal allies, Sean, are doing nothing to buttress the president and back up the president in what should be, Sean, what should be a bipartisan issue. You have close to 10,000 people potentially getting ready in the coming weeks to potentially hit our southern border, not through a port of entry, but to enter illegally. We have no idea who they are, and the Democrats are okay on this. Every responsible Republican should get every Democrat on the record as to where they stand on this.
Listen, I'm just going to assume, Sarah, that the vast majority of people are living in poverty, Their government's not working for them. We see waste, fraud, abuse, even the money that we give to a lot of these nations. I'm sure most, 99%, let's say, are good people that want a better life. I understand people's desire to be here, but we have laws. We're a constitutional republic. We have sovereignty. We have borders. And we have a process for people to come in. The idea, by the way, and if we had the wall, Sarah, this couldn't happen. But the idea that, America would somehow, by defending its borders, if there's any confrontation, it will be caused by other people that don't respect our laws. I don't want any innocent people hurt here, but nobody can vouch for anybody in that group. And if there's 1% that want to bring harm to our country, we owe it to the people here to protect them and not let that happen.
Absolutely, Sean. A couple of points here that are very important right now. The government of Guatemala, President Morales told me today in an interview that he understands how President Trump feels. He understands how the American people feel. He wants a full cooperation with the United States. He will fully cooperate. They want to bring the criminals to justice that organized this event, because innocent people are harmed, and these are the people that are being pushed into these caravans and being told lies and being brought up to the United States. But just as you said, there are elements of danger within these caravans. Members of, these migrants, members of MS-13, members of other gangs, they also found within the first wave of the caravans, and even within the second wave, Cubans, people from Congo, people from all over the world that were put into these caravans and from specific places. Nearly about 100 or so they have been rounding up. They have detained them. I have talked with intelligence officials here on the ground. This information is legitimate. Now, as for the ISIS members that I know everybody's talked about over the last few weeks, over the last week, that was information that was obtained from the intelligence services out here in coordination with U.S. intelligence, I've been told, over the last 3 years. So they have found members connected to ISIS and other various terrorist groups here in Central America.
Yeah. And Dan, if they get to the border and charge our border, that's an invasion. That's not a caravan. That would be an invasion.
There's no other way to describe it, Sean. And also, what happens when all the attention's being paid to the caravan? What happens at other points of entry as well, Sean? There's a lot of secondary effects from this as well.
Saying one thing years ago that now they sounded like Trump. Oh, now not one is speaking out. Not one, because they don't care to ever take a stand. They want to hide and see which way the wind blows. That's not leadership. Sarah, thank you for reporting. We'll have a new report from her tomorrow. Dan Bongino, thank you. When we come back, Nancy Pelosi thinks this election is in the bag for the Democrats, and she's going to be Speaker. Doug Schoen, John McLaughlin, they'll break down the polls and what you can expect 2 weeks from tonight.